to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Want to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of adjustments here, if I may, please.
Okay.
Under consent agenda, item 3, commissioners warrants. We have add-on warrants this morning for $18,261.12. $18,261.12. At 10:45, we can delete from the agenda the closed session. The issue will be dealt with by the Personnel Committee. On the back side of the page, please add an item, notice of retirement of County Recorder Marianne DeGroat. Notice of retirement of County Recorder Marianne DeGroat. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless board members have anything else.
Mr. Chair, with those additions and corrections, I will move the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Approve the consent agenda. Approve the minutes of 12/28/21, 1/4/22. Approve the auditor warrants 1/7/22, 1/11/22. Commissioners warrants and the add-on warrants of 18,261.12 this morning, and the hospital warrants of $388,929.68, and approve the treasurer's report from December 21.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for approval.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Nick?
Good morning.
Morning, Nick.
All right, actually kind of a short list for me today, but we'll start off with project updates. First update I have is on the second page for frame construction for the 2 bridges by Island. If everything goes well, they actually plan to start on them in February, which would be new for us, but I think it'll work out well for the park. We might run into our Topeka Shiner no work in the water time frame, but I think the work that would be in the water would be very minute, not very invasive, and we are working with Corps of Engineers currently to get approval to do that if we end up needing to be there. So that sounds promising, but yeah, so that's where we're at with that. Next update I have would be for the 2022 box culverts, contract number 2. We have a bid opening at the end of the month for those. So that's it for project updates for me. Next item I have would be setting a bid opening for our 2022 seal coats. Like to open those bids on February 22nd at 10:30 a.m. This project's for 23.5 miles of seal coat. Usually we do about 30, so this is a little bit smaller than we're used to, but not much. So yeah, I guess nothing really else to add to it. I included the map under request for board action, so you kind of see where the roads are at. I think it's easier that way than me rattling them all off. So.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we set the bid opening for February 22nd at 10:30 a.m. for the 2022 seal coating projects.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right. Last for me then would be maintenance updates. Over the last month, we've been removing some trees that have been causing some snow traps, so that's good to get them out of the way. Chris, I did confirm with our guys that we did that work on Playmore Curve. I know you had heard that or whatever, but I did confirm that was us. So there's a catch basin in Jasper that was settling. We have that temporarily patched now, so we'll do some more work on that with our overlay project in the summer. So And then lastly, our sign truck that we ordered almost 2 years ago showed up. Here's a picture of it. It's kind of packed in the corner right now as we're switching over to it. I'll try to get a better picture later, but here's what it is for now. It's quite the upgrade from our other one. So I'll probably be back in the near future to ask to sell the other sign truck when we get this one all up and running. Likewise, in the meantime, if you hear of any small cities or whatever in the county that might want our old one, that might be easier than going out for bids on the state website. So,
And it can be put to use within the county.
right, yeah. If I knew there was interest in the county, I'd probably rather just, even if we sold it a little bit cheaper to a city in the county versus dealing with the state thing, help our locals out too. And
Looks better, it's not so
there you can
washed
see it a little
out
bit
now.
better. Yep.
Sharp truck.
This has a crane on it, but that's on the other side. But if you look really close at the picture, you can kind of see our old truck behind it. So yeah, this one's quite a bit bigger. It'll be quite a bit better for us. So, yeah. So, if, like I said, any cities or whatever you think might be interested, tell them to give us a call. So, otherwise,
Other than signs, can it be used for anything else?
yep, we'll use it for like culvert repairs and whatnot. We'll have an onboard. I believe it's got an onboard generator. We could run air power tools for like doing the culvert ties. So yeah, we'll use it for service stuff too, in addition to just sign work. So, yep, I think we'll get quite a bit of use out of it. Other than that, does anybody have any questions for me? Otherwise, that's all I had for today.
Any questions? Not? Thank you, Nick.
Thank
All
you.
right. Oh, short day. And then I will be out of the office next week. Next week's Martin Luther King week, right?
17th.
Yeah. Yep. I have the county engineers conference, so try to check my email once a day, but we'll see. Sometimes the days get kind of long. So, all right.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you. Jessica. Come on up.
Expecting to be at 9:30.
We're moving along today.
I do have some maps to share with all of you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So good morning. My name is Jessica Wellew from Southwest Regional Development Commission. Recognize most faces here. So I am here to talk to you all today about a proposal for a regional trails plan, and as well as a resolution that should be in your packets, and a request for a $3,000 match for this. So the SRDC, after talking to some of our regional trails groups, talking to the counties, some trails advocates as well, we have applied for EDA, travel and tourism, and outdoor recreation program dollars. So this is under the COVID-19 relief funds. And what we're proposing to do is to develop a regional trails plan that would take the 9 counties of Southwest Minnesota. We'd be working with the trails groups that are in the area, as well as working with MnDOT, our parks groups as well, and businesses as well. We're looking at doing businesses around the area, and then county officials, anybody interested in doing trails advocacy, we'd bring them all together on at least a quarterly basis for the next 18 months to develop a trails plan, and really looking at prioritizing trail projects within the region, and creating a shared vision of what a trails network could be for Southwest Minnesota. So what we saw with the COVID-19 pandemic is that there's been a huge increase in trails needs and parks needs. We saw that our parks and trails were overly used during that time. And one thing that Southwest Minnesota doesn't have is a trails network that we can compete with, say, the Sioux Falls area or other trails networks that are across the state of Minnesota. But there's no reason that Southwest Minnesota can't have that. We have land, we have great parks in the area and being able to connect those together and work with our trails groups to find those connections on a regional level is what we thought would be really useful for the region. So that's what we're looking to do. We applied to the EDA for a $209,000 project, and that requires a 20% match. The RDC is looking at putting over $14,000 in as the match, and we're coming to each of the counties for $3,000 as that match as well. So like I said, this is going to be an 18-month project. We're going to be bringing in the trails groups together, have a working group that would set those priorities and look at different routes that would connect, say, Pipestone to Laverne and Pipestone to the South Dakota border, and also looking at connecting up to Redwood County and across to Jackson. So this would be a great project for all intents and purposes. So I have this map that I can show you. These right now are just what we know of in Pipestone County as potential trail corridors. And what we're looking at doing as part of this trails project would be to take all of the plans that are out there. So whether that be a MnDOT plan or a local trails group plan, county plan, we're going to go through all of those and try and find those connections and see what projects are rising to the surface as higher priorities and using that trails group to set those priorities on a regional level. So you'll see Pipestone County actually has a lot of potential trail corridors in here. We already have the Casey Jones, which would be the purple line there. And then the blue lines that go across have been noted as potential corridors, Highway 75 being a top priority for MnDOT. And then 23 all the way up to Marshall as well, and then down into Jasper would be a great option as well. So I can take any questions that any of you have right now.
Go ahead, Lou.
One thing, there's a local trail that goes around Indian Lake that's paved concrete from the campground past the vocational school around the lake, and you should probably add that to the map so it would
Yep.
show up. And then I was curious if you knew anything about our status of getting a primary designation for the Casey Jones Trail versus the secondary status that it currently has.
So what DNR has said is that primary status really needs to showcase users on that trail. So one of the things that our planning project is going to do is bring in 2 trail counters that would be housed in the region. So it would be housed at the RDC office. We'd be using those and putting them on all of our trails within the region over the next 18 months. So Casey Jones is going to be one of the big ones with that. We want to make sure that we're putting it on when there's going to be really good use of it. And so that we can show the legislature and show DNR that the trail is used. That's what they say that they want to see, and they want to see that there's enough trail users on there to make it a primary status, so let's show them and prove it. We know that there is, so.
How does the counter work for people walking?
Yeah, so the counters that we're looking at differentiate between bikers and then pedestrians. And then it should count on both ways, whether they're going or coming. So we put them on 2 different areas of the trail and then count it that way. And we'd be able to keep track of that on a daily basis.
So it must be a little different than the car counter.
Yep. A little bit different.
Are those supplied by the state, or do you have to buy those yourself?
Those we would be buying underneath the grant. So we'd keep them at the office, at the RDC office in Slayton. And then they would be housed there permanently. So any of our counties, cities, trail groups would be able to rent those out from us for free. So it gives us some more options in the region. Otherwise, MnDOT has some that are available through the Wilmer office and through Mankato office, but it's a ways to drive and then bring them down to the region, especially if you're looking at like Laverne, for instance. That's a long ways to drive for one way. So. And we would help with the setup and takedown and everything with that.
It'd be interesting to see the counts though.
It would. And I'm assuming they would want to attempt to eventually tie into like the Sioux Falls or Spirit Lake
Yes.
trail systems, which are pretty extensive.
Yes, that's one of the things that we're looking at as part of this project. We would go and try and talk to the Sioux Falls group, as well as Northwest Iowa. We already know that the Sioux Falls area trails wants to connect to the border. So being able to talk to them and say, hey, let's try and find a way to connect together and make this a tri-state trails network would be amazing for the region and for the tri-state area in general. It has the potential to bring in a lot of tourism. Of course, I mean, we're not going to be able to build trails out of $209,000 because it takes a lot more money, but at least this will give us a vision for the future. And it will also help our local trails groups with being able to be better funded. So having a regional trails plan will give them a better edge when they apply for grants and other funding. So.
Mr. Chair, the question I have then for our Administrator Steve Ewing is the $3,000, if we were to agree to this resolution, we're committing to a $3,000 financial support for it. What account or what funds would we take it out of? We've got funds that would be designated for this.
It would come out of reserves.
Yeah. So that should be.
$1,000 has been allocated to the Casey Jones Trail for 2022.
Okay.
So this would be in addition to that.
And then the follow-up on that then, Jessica, do you know, is this a one-time financial commitment or is this gonna be ongoing?
This would be a one-time.
Well, Mr. Chair, I will move that we do adopt the resolution 590922, supporting the regional trails plan.
Okay. Second.
Go ahead.
Dallas.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Jessica, for your good work.
Bill?
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, so what I've got is some licensing. I've got some Microsoft licensing for email. I've got the CALs that I'm bringing to you today. This was a planned expense for this year. And the other one I have is the RSA Secure ID tokens and going with some software tokens. And this is licensing for that, for 25 additional software tokens. We've been using the demo tokens right now, and that's a pretty good hook because we can't live without these.
Are they an actual token or
They're thin air.
they're thin air?
Yeah, they run on the phone.
Okay.
And for some of our users are going to need multiple tokens because they have several login credentials, and each credential needs to be protected by a separate token. So as you can see, I don't know if you can see on mine, but I've got two running here right now. I've got the admin one and I've got my personal one. And depending on what I'm logging into or what I'm going to do, I need either account. But we've got other departments that do similar things.
So
Not
you just
necessarily with
wave your
admin.
phone at the computer or something and?
No,
or how
no,
does it
you gotta
work?
type it in. You gotta
Okay.
type in the number. The number changes every minute, just like on the tokens. These ones are 8-digit compared to the fob token itself is a 6-digit.
So you have to pull your phone every time
Yeah.
to get your number.
So yeah, and we've kind of discussed that because we're already pulling our phone out for phone factor when you authenticate to the VPN. This can replace some of that. The phone factor, the billing for that is on demand. So the less we use it, the less the bill will be. These license different where you get this many months, and the standard is 3 where we get the best break on the price. I don't know what else to say about it. Any other questions about the fobs or about the email licenses?
Chairman, this is very common now. I've got access to several U.S. government sites
Yeah.
that we need for the county, and there's always multiple authentication. they're always, whenever you log in, they send you the code to your phone, you type it in, away you go. That's,
Yep.
multi-factor authentication is, we're
That's
there, and
another
it's not
security
going away.
measure.
It is.
Do you have a preference on bid?
I don't. These are licenses. We're already in with both of these vendors into this product. So,
More or less a
it's-
renewal.
The tokens are not really a renewal for the RSA, but we're using Morse Electronics to buy everything else from it. I don't want to start again with an additional vendor on a product that's being serviced from two different vendors. It'll just cause finger pointing. The Microsoft Exchange email licenses, we're with SHI and we're on the state contract for that, so we got the best price we can get.
This is two separate projects.
Two separate things. Yep.
Take a motion on each one. Okay, let's take the
Morse Electronics? I'll move to approve the
Morse. Yeah.
bid from Morse Electronics.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Then on the second one, for the tokens.
That was,
That was the tokens.
Morris Electronics was the token
The
one.
tokens.
Oh, it was, okay,
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the user license for Microsoft Exchange Server.
okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? Not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Bill, just to be sure, these were budgeted for 2022, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Personnel item. Kathy.
Mr. Chair, all I have this morning is the announcement of the retirement for Marianne DeGroat. I don't know if Steve wanted to present that or not, but Marianne has submitted her resignation and intent to retire on March 31st of this year. We will be seeking board decision on whether or not to appoint the position going forward. And if the board does want to do that, we'll have to do some work with developing job descriptions and getting it rated and moving forward that way. So,
Right now, it's an elected position, correct?
correct.
Any further discussion on it, or?
Yes,
Go ahead, Steve.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recommend that we would do as we did the county auditor treasurer, that the board move into an appointed position for this versus an elected position. We've learned over the years that the business has changed greatly, and it makes sense that it would be appointed position at this point. And I have all the resolutions, everything saved from when we did the last appointment. The difference now is that, as Kathy mentioned, we do have to come up with a job description
Right.
and also get it rated, pointed, all that. So there's some work to be done, so this won't go quite as quickly. So I would come back, the earliest would be the next board meeting with the resolutions to request that the board adopt those for the appointment process. But again, it falls back to the board if that's what position and you want to take to move forward on that. It could still be elected, but could be changed to an appointed position.
Is there enough time to do this prior to the end of March? To get through this
No.
process, or?
I don't think we get it done by the end of March. What I would recommend we do then is just like we did with the auditor treasurer, appoint an interim recorder and use me for that. So we did with the other one until we get this would get it filled. So we still have the continuity, we still have someone to sign. We still have Gretchen working in the office to handle the day-to-day work. So that way we still have someone to actually assign for you, just doing a temporary appointment, interim appointment as it were.
Yep.
Until we can get this through the system.
That
It's
way
gonna
the
take time
office
to do.
work still flows.
Yeah. Because deeds constantly are flowing in, title changes, mortgages, all that, they're still coming in they're very busy with that right now.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm sure that the public is gonna have some of the same concerns as far as accountability and so forth that we looked at other positions. So I think we need to really do our due diligence to make sure we present to the community what and why we're doing it. And also be interested to see statewide what the trends have been in the other counties as well. I'm sure that they have made decisions on this too, so give you a chance to get some data put together on that too. So it certainly makes sense, but I want to make sure that everybody is very comfortable with what we're doing here. And so again, the world has changed a great deal in the last 100 and how many years, so.
Yeah.
You know.
I
And
guess
to,
the action that we need today is to accept the resignation
Yes.
of Mary Endegrove.
Yes.
I'll make that a motion.
Okay,
And I will second that.
okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
And obviously we want, and we'll have an opportunity for that as well too. We've got a little bit of time between now and March, but we want to make sure we pass along our sincere appreciation for the work that Mary Ann has done, the number of years that she's been here, so it's. And it'd be interesting to get some input from her as well too, Steve, as you research this, see what she knows from her statewide groups, what the trend has been in the other counties as well too, so.
Certainly.
Okay, Steve, we have some other business that we can take care of here. Approve the warrant to Janet Bauman.
Chairman and board members, Janet Bauman graciously came in to help Sandy in the auditor's office for a period of time to go through the tax calculation process, payroll work. Kathy worked with Janet as well on this, so we did authorize her to come in and do this work from August until December, 42.25 hours of work, and decided that an hourly rate of $40 was a reasonable consulting time for her. The work got done, the tax calc is done, taxes are ready to go, payroll is done, the reports are done, and it was very helpful for Sandy Erickson to get that. This was Sandy's first run through this, and also this is during the time we didn't have an auditor treasurer up there at the time, so we decided to do this. The money will come out of the auditor treasurer's budget. During that time, you weren't paying an auditor treasurer for time being there. As I was doing some of the work up there and helping them out, you weren't paying me for that too, so it is not a budget issue at all on this at all. It's just I want to say to everyone, and Janet too, that we're thankful that she was willing to come in and help, because it helped a lot. It really did. They were able to get through what they needed to have done, the reports, and get again the tax calc done, so that was ready to go for the preliminary, and get those truth and taxation notices out the door. So now Sandy is more comfortable with that, and then going into years ahead, we'll be in a lot better shape with that. So this can take, you actually approve the bill, so her amount was in the commissioner's warrant, so this is more information on it, just to let you know what we did on that. I don't really need action on it, so.
You don't need action?
You approve the payment with the commissioner's warrant, so.
And then we have the appointment of the members to the extension committee.
Yes. You have a request for board action, just a small one in there, was notified by Bonnie Christensen that they have talked to Mr. Kent Vanderloot and Annika Hinkle, and both of those people have decided that they would like to serve on the committee for the years 22 through 24, per the recommendation of Bonnie Christensen, the Regional Extension Director, would recommend those two members for the board to approve that. The two members that termed out were Audrey Fritz and Alan Vanderloot. If you remember, we were working on the meetings and the committees last week. So recommendation would be to approve Kent and Annika to the Extension Committee for the years 20 through to 24.
I'll make that a motion.
And I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Not? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you, I will let her know.
Okay. Do we have anything else that we can do? Or do you wanna just take a break for a little bit?
All right, you have committee reports, you could do those
Yeah.
if you want to, or take a break, your choice.
Who wants to start this committee? Luke?
Again. On December 15th, Highway 23 Coalition met. We discussed the need for a 20% annual state match to access the $465 million in new federal funding each year for the next 5 years. Heather Koffler is working on a new website for the coalition. Approximately 30% of the membership dues were in for 2022. The Priority Projects Committee will meet this Friday in Waite Park, and I'll be pushing for that Pipestone to Russell concrete reconstruction, seeking a legislative earmark along with Corridors of Commerce funding for one of 3 interregional corridors in District 8. Coalition is hoping to get Congressman Pete Stauber to speak at their annual meeting this spring, and strategic planning is set for the day after the AMC Legislative Conference in Spicer. On the 16th, Minnesota Transportation Alliance met in Chaska. Presentations were given on the new federal funding, but of the $4.5 billion in 5-year funding, because of it being part of a continuing resolution, only 15 to 20% of it is actually new money, not the entire amount, which is, I think, a misconception that the public often is getting from the news about it. And much of that requires a 20% local or state match. So, yeah, that's something that is kind of different too. And then when in the breakout sessions there, I did recruit a couple new firms to join the Highway 23 Coalition, and hopefully they'll participate in the Priorities Project meeting this Friday. On the 28th, of course, we had our hospital board meeting. On the 4th, the organizational meeting. On the 5th, I met with various agencies for the AMC Environment and Natural Resource Committee. So we met with staff from MPCA, Bowser, DNR, and the Department of Ag. Probably one of the more disturbing things that came up is the Department of Ag commissioner mentioned that they were starting to have COVID outbreaks in the meat factories again throughout the state. And we certainly hope that we don't have a similar issue like we did last time that happened. And then also that African swine fever is in Dominican Republic and one other Caribbean country. And they're concerned that it might not be a case of if it makes it to the United States, but when. And obviously that'd be pretty devastating for our local producers. And then also there's avian flu in Ontario, and they're concerned that, we could get some of that again. So we'll have to wait and see, I guess. On the 6th, Area 2 and RCRCA met. 75% of the pipe for that dredging project is in place. The last permit was received, and they did also receive a $648,000 grant from the Clean Water Funds. On the 7th, I have the Minnesota Hospital Conference, where here again, lovely news. They were saying that the Omicron variant of COVID is doubling every 2 days in the United States, which is why we've gone from initial case at the beginning of December to now cases exceeding 1 million a day. And I think after the Minnesota Health Commissioner spoke at the conference, I think it was announced later that she actually had contracted it, as well as our Attorney General. So it's making the rounds even at the state. And then yesterday, the Minnesota Rural County Group met, and we had Margaret Donahoe from the Transportation Alliance give a nice presentation on the transportation issues. I think one of our top priorities is going to be trying to make a case that, while I think a lot of legislators are under the impression that because of the local option sales tax availability for those that choose to use it, which we do not, that, you know, their transportation funding issues are solved, and in fact, that is just not the case. I mean, it's fine for larger counties that are a regional center for retail activity, but, you know, where we're already at a tax disadvantage with South Dakota and Iowa, and it's, you know, would not be in our best interest to make it even worse by having an additional tax, and we wouldn't bring in enough to really matter anyway, because we just don't have the volume.
Right.
So it's kind of creating you know, some counties are halves where it works for them because they're able to raise millions of dollars in additional funding. And then the have-nots like us that it wouldn't amount to squat, so why would you do it? And so we still need some kind of more reliable, long-term, stable funding. Or at this time, since we have such a large state surplus, it would be nice to get some earmarked funding for projects such as the reconstruction of Highway 23, instead of wasting money on a mill and overlay. That we've seen what the mill and overlays have done on 75 and 30. I mean, a few years later, they're just as bad as they were before. Why would you continue to waste money in that fashion when you could, you know, do a 50-year fix and just be done with it? And where we have so much overweight traffic, oversized, you know, between all the ag loads and the wind turbines, and the fact that it is the highest volume traffic highway in our district, it would seem logical that you would reconstruct it properly instead of doing some Band-Aid fix that's not going to work out. So I'm hoping to try to reach out to our legislators this week and see if I can't encourage them to support that, something of that nature. And that's all I have.
Chris?
On the 8th, I had Southwestern Mental Health in Laverne office. I kind of covered that last week with their committee report. So one of the things I didn't get to say was that Sanford was offering that $2 million to help keep them afloat. And at the time, Avera hadn't responded on if they were going to match or do anything either. Then on the 14th, I had a regular board meeting here, as well as on the 28th. And then also on the 20th, the PCMC board meeting. Since I didn't go to AMC, all my other committees were pretty much done for this month. So that's all I had.
Dallas?
The state MC meeting, went to that in the Public Safety Division. One thing that struck me is that 2.5% of the budget is on corrective, and that's the lowest in the country. So that's, I don't know if that's good or bad. Either we're not doing our job or they're doing their job too well. One of the keynote speakers was on trust. One thing I took away from there, the average number of books people have read after they've completed their education. One book. That shocked me. I went to the library next week.
Guilt.
Yeah. And next one was on solar sighting, 300 feet from rivers, 1,000 feet from lakes. They talked about decommissioning fees. They're all over the board, from 25,000 to 125,000 per megawatt. And cybersecurity, people are the weakest link. Was another data and cache is what they're after. Wireless broadband to the whole county. That was LeSueur County. They put on about that. They put fiber to towers and then dish after the towers. They had 10 towers that covered the county. Took 26 miles of fiber. They had a head up because they had one company that covered the whole county already in satellite TV and stuff like that. So it made it a lot easier for them. They have like 50,000 or 5,000 people left in the county that they don't have, but it was going to cost $500,000 to supply that 500 people by the bluffs and stuff there. They just couldn't do that. Julie Ring talked about her opioid settlement. She was very happy with that. Another one of the sessions was with Susan Brower, the state demographer. Minnesota has 5,706,494 people. That's up 7.6%. She was congratulating us on our job doing the census because we kept our house seat by 26 people. And Another one I went to was automated vehicles, CAV, they call them, connected automated vehicles. And she was rating them from 0 to 5. And no matter what you see on TV about automated vehicles, there's nobody that's there yet. She said 2 is the highest anybody has gotten. And that's assisted cruise and stopping, whatever. So there's a lot of work to do that. They have a test site in Rochester, and they're finding out all the bad things that you have to do to make them work all around the country. First time they went around the thing, it said the road was too rough. So they had to put a new road down. And I talked about striping, and this is, that's gonna be an issue in the near future. The more people that have lane assists, then the striping is gonna be the big deal. And the last one I went to was Scott Anderson. He's always good to listen to. And regular meeting on 14th, and I missed the 28th. I was snowed in the West Coast, and we got home 2 days later, and without much further ado, we did make it back. So that's my report.
Okay. Dan?
Okay, my month started then with Prime West on December 2nd. Some of the things we discussed at Prime West, probably on a housekeeping subject. You might recall we had an office building up there from years ago, and we've been working to sell it. Well, we had a purchase agreement for it. It was all set to go, and then that new buyer wasn't able to get their financing. So now we still have got an expensive building to back to square one on that. Then also Jim, our principal, our director, gave us an update then, of course, on the 11 county expansion. We're still, again, waiting determination from the state on that. Anything more on the expansion that I'm missing? Just kind of, again, we're still holding.
Well, it might be another, towards the end of the year before we find anything definite.
Yeah. And then also, 2021 budget, instead of going through all the expense of presenting a new budget, we've decided to extend the existing budget for another couple of months because some of the changes that are going to be taking place here shortly. So, anything else I'm missing on Prime West?
The presentation that we had on, can't remember what they called it, where they connected all the food shelves. Remember that?
Yes.
If a food shelf didn't have an item for some family, they could get on a computer, locate it in another food shelf, and get it shipped for the family.
Oh, okay.
So, just kind of connecting all the food shelves.
Coincidentally, on that same subject, Ann Orn is going to do a presentation for Kiwanis at noon today.
Okay.
They've got these grow rooms. It's a greenhouse type thing,
right.
Program they're getting started. So she's going to come down and present that today as well too. So then my next meeting then was on the 10th, and that was my Southwest Mental Health Consortium, just our regular meeting. Some of the same things that you guys have heard at Southwest Mental Health, again, availability of beds, financing and so forth, not knowing where we're going to stand with CARES Act money, how that's going to affect our ongoing budget as well too. Then on the 15th, I had my Southwest Health and Human Services Joint Powers Board up in Marshall with Les as well too. And again, we had, we just received resignation of one of our HR persons. But other than that, we had a review then with our director, Beth Wilms. She got a very, very positive review. I don't know if there's anything really particular that stood out other than that in the meeting.
No, there wasn't. It's pretty much basic after that.
Yep. Then on the 29th, I had to go back up for a personnel committee meeting for Southwest Health and Human Services. We had a request for leave that we had to meet in public for, of course, because it's a public meeting and so forth. So pretty boilerplate stuff there. Then, as you know, of course, we had our hospital board meeting. Also on the 21st, I met with the OB work group, again, working on a replacement for our OB department. Then on the 30th, I had my Rural Minnesota Energy Board. We had just an executive committee meeting there. We got a proposal from a pipeline group that's putting in a CO2 pipe. I don't know if you've heard any of this discussion before, so they want to come and present to us, but before we gave that invitation, we want to get more information from them. So it looks like they'll be coming. I don't remember what the date, sometime in February. And they're gonna present to the rural energy. And we also talked about the fact that certainly, is this an energy situation or is this an environmental concern? So I'm sure that the solid waste committee is gonna get involved in that as well too.
Right.
That Luke is on. Okay, and that concludes my report. I also did not make it to the AMC meeting as well. Maybe a little bit of an update on Caring Hands, if you'd like, part of the Prime West. Again, Al Olson with the Caring Hands Project, you're all aware of that. Mark Griebel is doing the framing for him, and he's got the floor deck in now, so they're starting to set up the walls here. The weather in a couple of days, hopefully they'll get the walls framed. And XL Energy is out there with their crews doing some boring as well too, trying to get power into it. So it's moving forward. So a little more good weather this next week is going to help a lot. So that concludes my report.
Okay. On the second, we had Prime West, and Dan and I kind of talked about that. On the 8th, Southwest Mental Health, we kind of talked about that. The 12th, we had SWCD, Soil and Water. On the 10th, we had a personnel meeting. On the 13th, we had the TNT meeting. And on the 15th, Health and Human Services again. On the 20th, we had Southwest PIC. Wasn't too much there. Had election of officers. They will remain the same for the year 2022. On 22nd, we had radio board, and that was going to be a Zoom meeting. And about an hour before the meeting, Jasper lost power. So I had no internet. I couldn't even make a connection. So I missed that one. And then that was it for me for the month of December. Shall we recess for 15 minutes?